Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Just My Opinion podcast. Today we're going to be reading this post from this blog online, which talked about Akon's statements about Sarkodie during an interview, where he mentioned that Sarkodie was actually the first African artist that they signed. So I'm going to read the statement, and then we're going to react to that. Hi, Ambassador.
Hello, people. It's your boy Ambassador again doing this thing.
So, Akon said Sarkodie was the first artist that we signed out of Ghana. So this was doing an interview on Pulse, and he said my brother Babs actually was dealing with him on a day-to-day basis, but at the time it was one of those situations where when you sign African artists, you really didn't have full control over them. It was a piece of paper, so it would be up to the artist to say, okay, we have a contract, let's honor it. So he goes on to say, we had plans to make him so much bigger, but I think at the time his agenda was more focusing on Ghana, which worked for him. And I think that it was a plan that worked. I mean, it's arguably or arguably not, but I know for sure if he followed our plan, he would have been a global artist without a doubt. We realized that we really couldn't work with him yet because he just wasn't mentally ready to go on the level we just allowed him to continue moving the way he was moving. Unfortunately, when you have an artist and you can't control the artist or you can't control the assets to them, it's hard for you to do what you need to do with them if you don't have control over him. I don't know if it was him specifically or the team that he had around him at the time, but it was just very difficult to get certain things done with the communication that we were getting with his team at the time. I always say he is the artist that got away. Okay, so first of all, before you jump in, Ambassador, I just want to say like I like the fact that Akon mentioned like arguably or not arguably like his plan, his strategy to focus on Africa or to focus on Ghana actually worked because now Sarkodie is one of the biggest artists in Africa. So he's saying, okay, if he would have stuck to their plan, he would have gone into the global level. But these things, like you can never be sure. You can never be sure. Might have stuck to their plan and he might not even have gotten up to the level of fame that he has now. What do you think, Ambassador?
So, for me, it's the Akon story we're talking about now. A number of African artists have faced this challenge, and some are still facing this challenge. So, there is the American way of doing things to go global. There's the African way of doing things to go global. A good number of these artists have stories. Maybe Sarkodie not so much, but we know of the D'banj, the videos, the Tiwa Savage, MIs, who relocated to the Western world, either the UK or America, hoping that through their structures they are going to blow up. But the structures did not really work for them like that. They came back to Africa, then they blew up. Then they grew up organically from Africa into the world. But that process also means that one, their their growth is not well structured. They lose out on a lot of money because you cannot collect some of the streaming things, publishing things. They're not so much in control of the distribution channels because that's how the African markets work. When they blow up legit in Africa, they become a household name, they become big, they attract now the globe. So we saw it like with Davido, he signed his global deal. So when you sign those global deals, they have all their people, their MBAs and experts on their various dev jams and Sony music and whatever, who have an experience from a different kind of market, but they want to coach you in a different kind of market. So I think like Davido's own case, they started the music, they were changing his music, they were in control of certain things, how he's releasing, and I think Davido pulled out of it. Same story with D'banj. He took D'banj and Jazzy under what's his name, Kanye, good music. Jazzy was a producer, but Don Jazzy had the vision to know like this thing is not going to work for us, and he pulled out. D'banj continued the deal, but I think later on had to pull out. I don't know what ended up with that, how that deal ended up. Yeah, but till now D'banj is still stuck in the shadow of that decision. So even what's his name, Nasty C. Nasty was really blowing up in Africa, but since he signed that his global deal, I feel like his career has become slower. I can see the same thing for many. You see their music starting to change, the way they release, like back in the days that they'll maybe drop something online, make some release parties, shoot many of their maybe not so much quality videos, but just pump it out there because, like, let me give you an example, like in the movie industry. When the Alaba guys realized that in the pirating thing was very harsh, they started splitting up their movies into part 1, part 2, part 3. That way, by the time they sell these 3 copies, they are going to still maybe break even. They started getting into the pirating thing with the pirates and using it as their distribution channels. So that's one of the things which you adapt locally, just because you know that there are no laws to protect you like that. There are no, and you're trying to grow up in Africa first because that can be that's where you can naturally, should I say, your music can connect the most with those people. So I get what Akon is saying, and it's something we have seen, it's recurrent in the industry. Yeah, but it's just a risk you have to take. But for me, I've not seen any success story of an artist who blew up in Africa, went and jumped totally into the global machine without still staying true to his African ways, that's in code, and then the person blew up globally. Because the world is taking you before an Africa from Africa, for an African from Africa. Now, if you lose that touch and the Africans are no longer projecting you like they were projecting you, which made the West to notice you, somehow it's almost like you start building a house. When you have gotten to the 2nd floor, you break the foundation under the house. The house is bound to crumble. So that's how I see it. So maybe there's some other thing the Western labels or investors have to do when connect to African artists. But like what I've heard Don Jazzy says most of the time, they hold on to the creative process and they give the global guys distribution. So I think like Rema has some distro guys that are in South Africa or in America. Tiwa, I think Tiwa is under Live Nation for certain things. But the creative process, they try to keep it as local and as under their control as possible. Because they're also in touch with the culture. So imagine somebody who is moving from, I don't know what, from mainland to the island to Oshodi to some campus in Uniben to I don't know where, or in Boya, the various universities and things. That culture is in me. The culture is not just the music. It's in seeing the Benz Sikine pass on the bike, seeing the woman selling pop-off and beans beside the road. All of those things form how you think and how you see life and how you hear sounds and how you hear. So that's what makes the person the African artist. But when somebody now from New York in their skyscraper wants to come and tell you how to make your African music, that music might not be very African. They might have very good ideas, very enlightened ideas, but it might not just be very African. The Afro beat is not the most academic beat. So if somebody sits and then they start dissecting violin playing, they might be very academic about it. But Afro beat has some elements of a lot of freestyling to it. The way they play with their drums and things, it's very creative, but I also feel like it's not maybe very structured. It's structured in our own way. But if the typical academic musicians want to dissect it, it might not be that way. So when you coming from those classical schools of thought musically, comes to start coaching a person, someone who did his freestyle in tree, jumped into some Coupe de Calais flavor, jumped into some, how do they call this one? Azonto movement. You did not go through that journey with him, but now you want to come and start coaching him on how he should do his own version of Afrobeat now. So it becomes tricky. There's that conflict of interest. Then they lose out on their fans. So I think, and I think Akon is honest enough to say maybe it was the right thing Sarkodie did. Sarkodie is still successful. Maybe not in the direction that they wanted him to go, but he's still successful. And maybe if he went in that direction with them, it might not have worked based on the precedents we have seen from
Yeah, I
the
mean,
Dibanche to the
yeah.
Davidos to the others.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like Narcissi, Dibanche, yeah. So the only person where I'm like, okay, he has some global backing, and he's still doing his thing is Burna Boy. And in one of our previous episodes, you also like Burna Boy has his mother there. He too has a very strong personality,
Yeah.
so it's difficult to really dilute
No, I think
his
this Burna Boy
person.
is very much in control of his creative process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Then he has
but
outsourced, let's say, how do they call it? Like Don PDD was involved in this his last project or the one before. Yes, I think Giant. How do they call it? Yeah, the last album he put
African
out,
giant.
African Giant. Yeah, but I think the creative process is very local. Most of the time, he's in Nigeria doing his thing and he's working with his people.
Yeah, so like what Akon was saying, like okay, he signed Sarkodie, but he didn't feel like he had full control, and I feel like it's a very case the person whoever signs Burna Boy will not have full control over Burna Boy, but Akon
Now,
wanted to have full control, and I don't think that full control works for somebody like you said, somebody who knows how to do things the American way, coming to have full control over an African artist. It's not necessarily going to be successful from past experience. So this might be an unpopular opinion, but I strongly do believe that it's preferable for an African artist to sign with a Don Jazzy, with a Marvis Records,
yeah,
than to sign
yeah,
with a,
yeah.
is it Def Jam or
It
whatever.
might not. It might be unpopular, but I think that is right.
Yes, yeah.
Because he has a PhD in African music. He understands African music. He has made it work. He has stood the test of time. He has proven that it can be done from here to global.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I mean, if Akon would have like, there are so many possibilities that could happen, right? You take this part, this happens. You take this part, this happens. You take this part, this happens. We cannot stand here today and say for sure, like, if he would have gone this direction, this would have happened. I mean, he might have ended up successful. He might have been the one success story, or he might have gone south. We never know. But what we know for sure today is that Sarkodie is still one of the biggest names in Africa, and he's still doing his thing.
Obere Pombere.
Yeah, so definitely. So
You know, say money no be problem. Sign with Akon or not.
I mean, he's a landlord. He's a landlord, so yeah.
The guy has made so much money now. He's just chilling in the countryside. He
I
no longer has
mean,
time
I
to
mean,
hustle with
right,
people in the market. It's in his countryside.
right. Okay, let's proceed to talk about our sponsors, Echo.online.
Yeah, people, as usual. This is like one of the best, just my opinion, discussions, which I feel like Echo.online just fits into it. We're talking about this whole issue of African artists and the challenges they face when they're going to the global market. Echo.online is a tool built to solve all of these problems. Echo.online can help the African artists to be exposed to the African market and to the global market. You could monetize his art of Echo.online. Very simple. Go out there, create a profile, get the link to your profile, share it on all your social media handles, push your followers to come and follow you on Echo.online. That way you could monetize your art directly. We say the power is in your hand because just with your phone, go do all of these things. Create your profile, upload your music, push it out to your fans, build a community. Once you have built a solid community, you could start monetizing regularly from your art. And when you monetize from your art, you could reinvest in your career, make it bigger, then you keep on going organically. Echo.online to build your fan base. You could sell your music to your fans directly. You could create your merchandise, sell it to your fans, organize events, sell your tickets, all of these things. Some of the features I mentioned are still under construction, but I usually tell people jump on board when it's early. That way you could have an influence on how you could best benefit from the development process. So they could develop certain things to suit your needs because you were there when it started. You also get like the best endorsement deals or the best privileges off the site. So those who jumped on YouTube, I always mention these became millionaires, the first users, because they got the best endorsement deals and YouTube actually paid attention to their needs. So jump on Echo.online, create your profile, upload your music, share it with Chakara TV. We are also going to be very aware of songs on Echo.online. If you want to get in contact with the management, go right directly to them, but get in touch with us and we'll put you in contact with the management. I feel like it's one of those sites and apps which is very African, built by Africans for Africans, but also the potential of what it can become. It's almost like a blank check. What you put in is what you get. It's not like those cases where you put out your good music, but you are stuck with it in your laptop. You cannot push it out. Even when you push it out, you have to put it on Tidals and iTunes. Your fan base is in Cameroon, but your fan base is in Nigeria and Ghana, and this fan base is not on iTunes, not on Tidal. So you are selling to just the diaspora could give you like a 5% of your community. And now, how do you get your money? You have to struggle to get your money from somebody who gets it and then sends it to you. But Echo.online get your money in your phone using mobile money, using any payment methods. The payment methods are really adapted to the African setting. So you could get your money directly into your phone, and then you could energize your career. So I think everybody should jump on Echo.online, share it with us. We'll be very happy to know like people are reacting to these things. And the end goal is we are trying to build that music ecosystem, a healthy one, profitable for the stakeholders, especially the artists who are like the core of the whole music value chain. So jump on Echo.online and then share your success story with us. Why not even share the money?
Okay, guys, yeah, so definitely get in touch with the local African market, build your fan base from the ground up, and build that strong foundation, like the ambassador said. Thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of the Just My Opinion podcast. Be sure to leave your comments below. We always want to know what you think. Thumbs up to this video. If you do enjoy our content, subscribe, hit the notification button. See you guys next time. Bye, guys.